lieb ich für mein Leben, lebe eben wie ich kann. Wollt ich mir doch Mühe geben, passt es mir doch gar nicht an.
Dear Diary, so many conflicting events occurred today. Perhaps you can shed some light on my feelings. It was one of those tiring days of life and I was exhausted. You see, my darling diary, there are these leeches that live on my back. Every day they suck pints of blood from me. The leeches are convinced that I have enough blood to spare and they feel justified in taking my blood. They love to sink their sharp teeth into me. Do they not know that I feel pain? Or perhaps my pain is not important to them. After all, leeches are selfish creatures. So that was my dilemma. As I walked, I contemplated ways to burn myself, for I knew only then can I get rid of these leeches. Just as I had decided that a bath in gasoline would be most appropriate, I came across a quaint little jigsaw shop. Perhaps what I needed was a fun jigsaw puzzle to play with, and that might alleviate my distress. Once inside the shop, I stared at the hundreds of jigsaw puzzles. And then a voice spoke. I make a jigsaw puzzle every day. I turned around only to see what I thought to be a human sitting quietly in a corner. Who are you? I asked. I am an ordinary man, he replied. I did not know an ordinary man makes a jigsaw puzzles. How much are your ordinary puzzles? I asked. He replied, they are free, but you can only fix them here. When you are finished, kindly put it back. As I proceeded to fix one of the jigsaw puzzles, he loudly exclaimed, the puzzles will make no sense to you. Don't even bother to fix them. How dare does this ordinary man tell me what he thinks I can or cannot fix? Explain yourself to me, ordinary man, I shouted. He firmly replied, my jigsaw puzzles are neologistic puzzles. In other words, I make symbols that you cannot understand. The symbols are only recognizable in my land. Thus, these puzzles are unreachable and definitely unfixable by you. With that said, he walked off. The words of this pompous bastard angered me. My killer instinct started raging. The pleasure I can get from beheading this man would be most indescribable. My beloved knife was in my hand and I was ready to strike. Come back, ordinary man. I've got a surprise for you. The ordinary man ignored me and went to another room. But as I followed, the door was slammed shut in my face. I was now left alone in a room with unfixable jigsaw puzzles, pesky leeches on my back, and a useless knife that did not kill. I then heard loud chanting from the other side of the door. I looked through the peephole only to see the most strangest sight. The ordinary man was standing on an elevated platform surrounded by a huge crowd of humans that appeared to worship him. This ordinary man started to bellow and howl like a violent savage. This excited the crowd, who started to chant even more. As this man howled with intensity, I noticed something peculiar on his face. Was it a tube that you ask, my darling diary? No, darling. Close, but not quite. It looked as if his veins were coming out of his face. It was only then that I realized that this was no ordinary man. This was the devil himself. The veins on his face were snakes. Only a devil can have the ability to seduce snakes to dance on his face like that. The devil was delivering his Sermon on the Mount, and the crowd of humans were the devil's disciples. The devil then raised his hands majestically in the air. Immediately his disciples fell to their knees. Anyway, it looked as if his veins were coming out of his tightly clenched hands. But these veins were definitely snakes that joyfully were curling themselves around his hands. But as I stared at this devil, I began to feel jealous. Jealous that the numbers of his disciples were growing. Jealous that the devil's world was getting bigger and bigger, while my world was rapidly getting smaller and smaller. Could it be that perhaps I was no different than an insignificant insect? An insect that lives each day, narrowly escaping from being squashed by a powerful force. The disciples were happy to be in the presence of this powerful devil. I want to be happy too. Should I ask this devil to be his disciple? No. No. Anastasia is nobody's disciple. It was useless to even try to enter the devil's glorious world, for I was not even invited. Who wants to befriend a devil anyway? I felt more awake now, but still a little groggy from my battle with jealousy. I focused my attention back on the jigsaw puzzle shop. I started to fix the puzzle, but was stumped. The devil was right. I had no clue what these symbols meant. I could only imagine. Imagine! And that is the solution! I took my black marker out and started drawing on the pieces that did not make sense to me. I drew faces, symbols, and a host of other objects and finally completed the puzzle. And what a beautiful puzzle it was. Now, when the devil comes back in his silly disguise as an ordinary man, he is going to be quite stunned to see his jigsaw pieces all marked. I proceeded to steal some of the puzzles. I could take my time and realter the puzzles any way I want to. I doubt whether the devil will know any of his puzzles were stolen. And what can he really do even if he finds out? Will the devil punish Anastasia? I've already been punished with these leeches on my back. Thus even the devil is powerless in my presence. I ran out of the shop with the stolen jigsaw puzzles. The nerve of that devil to call himself an ordinary man. This is a devil with a twisted sense of humor. But I still wonder about the devil. And I even feel a little bit jealous that even a devil can get love from his disciples. 'Tis a strange world, is it not? A world that hates I, Anastasia. But then again, maybe I, Anastasia, was not born to be loved. Perhaps it is better to be feared than to be loved. And I do know for sure that the world fears I, Anastasia. Except you, my darling diary. I know you love me, and maybe that is all I need. Anastasia.
Draußen in die Seiten reiß ich, weiß nicht